Wel, croeso I chi gyd. Welcome to you all joining us today on our third event of 4 events that have been newly launched called the Screen Careers Programme, brought to you by Film Cymru Wales in partnership with the Creative Careers Programme Cymru, funded by the Welsh Government through Creative Wales. These events set out to discover the journey of creating a film or a TV script and delivering the production to the cinema TV screen. All 4 events embrace this entire journey, with our first event yesterday called the Creative event. Then we followed it up with event 2 yesterday afternoon being production. And then event 3 is today with being art and technical. And then we finish later on today from 4 o'clock onwards with event 4, which is post-production and sales and distribution of your film or your TV series to the streaming channels. So we will all here today on Zoom discover this amazing script to screen journey, with also identifying career entry opportunities and defining work responsibilities within specific job roles. As I turn to our amazing panel of speakers who are all currently working with great talent, energy and passion within the film and TV industry here in Wales, also in the UK and internationally. We do have Edward Thomas joining us from Prague today, as well as Sian Porphyry joining us from Pritchett. So thank you for making that effort to get to us today on the event. Now, also, they would like to partake and share with you their career experiences and to answer your questions directly as well when we open the Q&A session up at the end of our panel discussion today. So can I therefore ask our distinguished panel of speakers to introduce themselves and their current job role to you all before I move forwards to my first question. Can I start with Edward Thomas, please?
Hello, I'm Edward Thomas. I'm a production designer. I'm based in Swansea, and funny enough, actually, Lloyd, I'm actually back from Prague. I'm in Swansea. Yeah, production designer. I'm working on the sequel to a film called Escape Room, which we're filming at the moment. Yeah, and so.
And then onwards to Danny Hargreaves.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Danny Hargreaves. I'm a physical special effects supervisor that works in film and television. What that means is I provide all the explosions, fire effects, bullet hit type effects you see on TV and film. I'm based here in Cardiff. My workshop's here in Cardiff. I work on various productions, currently in preparation for Doctor Who, Cobra, Peaky Blinders, and lots of other secret stuff I can't tell you about.
Wonderful. And onwards to Claire. Just need to unmute, Claire.
Sorry.
Okay.
Claire Pritchard Jones here, a makeup designer, currently working on series 13 of Doctor Who.
Fantastic. That brings me to Danny Marie Elias.
Hi everyone, I'm Danny and I'm the prosthetics designer on Doctor Who at the moment. Yeah, that's me, and I'm based in Bargoed.
Brilliant, thank you, Danny. Coming on to Lindsey.
Hello, I'm Lindsey Bonacorsi, costume designer based in Cardiff. Most recently working on Casualty as episode costume designer and various single dramas, all based here in Wales.
Thank you, Lindsey. Coming on to Sian Porphyry.
Hi, my name's Shani. I was based in Cardiff. I've just moved to Spain, so I'm not working on anything at the moment. But I'm a director of photography and a camera operator. I worked on lots of TV and film, and the last jobs was actually Casualty.
Thank you very much, Sian. Coming on to Maya.
Yeah, I'm Maya Jensen, and I'm a grip. I'm London-based. And I'm currently doing a surprising amount of commercials for some reason.
Fantastic. Last but never not least, to the Mr. Chris Godding.
Hello, everyone. My name's Chris. I'm from Cardiff, also based in Cardiff. I've just come back from Italy doing a 6-month job for Sky Atlantic called Domina, and I start Doctor Who on Monday. Sound, by the way.
In sound. Lovely. Thank you, Chris. And this brings me to my first question, everybody. I'll direct it straight to Edward to kick us off, and I'll go through the list as we introduce people. So, Edward, what are the key responsibilities in your job role with the journey of delivering the script to our big screen?
Massive question. How long have we got?
10 minutes.
I guess the main responsibility is to deliver, you know, what the commissioning editor or the company that's funding the project, making sure they get what they've asked for. And by that I mean that if they want a certain genre of production or a certain look of a production, that they get what they pay for. Beyond that, I guess it's to make sure that on the journey all the way through, that everyone remains safe, calm and healthy as we produce what we do, you know. Like in all health and safety, when you create the risk, you manage the risk, you know. So I guess those are the two most important things that I always try to keep in the back of my mind. And then beyond that, that's when the fun starts, you know. I'm often approached in various ways by whether it be an exec producer, a company like Sony or Netflix or whoever the producing company is. Sometimes I get approached by a director. It varies on how it works. But once I get approached, it really is to look after the vision and the overall sort of conceptual look of a film, TV program. And it's to work with the director, the producer on the ground, on a location in the studio, to ensure that there's a cohesive look to the narrative, and that people don't, when they're designing, all the departments come together and come to bring all their ideas to the table, that we don't lose the narrative, the idea of the narrative, because you know what we're there as creative people. Sometimes we can get lost in our own ideas, you know, and that's not really why we're there. We're there to make sure that we sell and tell the story, and very often our work is meant to not be seen, other than maybe Danny, special effects. Is that it's there to help sell the narrative, not take over the narrative. So within all that, I work with the various departments to ensure that narrative is very clear and beautiful.
Lovely. Thank you, Edward. And you brought me very wonderfully on to Danny Hargreaves, which with an explosion comes to set and to mind. I'm really interested to hear what yourself, sir, what your responsibilities are with your job role and the journey of delivering the script to screen.
So my role would start quite a bit after when Ed would start. I would sort of come into the production and start looking at how on earth were we actually going to achieve what we want to achieve. And so I would work very closely with someone like Ed, and we have done many times in the past, looking at how we are going to do the incredible when it comes to working on some of these shows. But also try and do it within a budget. A lot of us work on a whole different scale of different productions, ranging from small soaps up to big feature films. So it's making sure that you gauge the ambition at an early stage. And that's one thing that I've learned a lot over these last years, is to come on as part of a creative process, as opposed to just arriving a week before it's asked for. I'd like to get embodied into a production at an early stage, so that I have a control or some type of control in that kind of design process. And then sort of how we are then going to sort of deliver it on budget. But the most important thing is obviously safely. So again, my role is to create these type of effects, whether it be an explosion or an elemental effect like snow and rain, but deliver it with the ambition that the production want, with the director, with the designer and the DOP, as well as the producers, but also it's delivered safely. And essentially it's one thing that that we really try and sort of press here at Real SFX, is to ensure that we're obviously everything is designed in a way that it's completely and it's executed safely. And everyone is obviously is happy with the end result. You know, we are providing a service when it comes to special effects. We are providing a product, which is the effect itself, and it's important that the client, whether it is the producers or the directors, that they are happy. So, but it varies. The input varies in accordance to the size of the effects as well. So it does. You know, it can be challenging most of the time, and particularly we're in a format now where The format of filming is changing now. There's not a clear process between what is film and what is TV. That's quite blurred now. With the introduction of what is Netflix and Amazon, we are now doing more effects over a longer period of time, which would normally be reserved for big budget feature films. So long may it continue. That's, you know, it's a really exciting time for filmmakers at the moment.
Oh, wonderful! Thank you for partaking your experiences with all there, Danny. Can I bring you on to Claire Pritchard Jones now in regards of what her responsibilities within her role is with the journey of delivering the script to screen?
Hi, yeah, well, I'm predominantly involved in delivering the look of a character, so working with the director, the producer, and with the cast member, with the actor, and reading through the script, pulling some ideas together about the look, the feel, and just bringing all those things together so that we can deliver a very confident actor to the set, and fulfill what everyone sort of imagines when they've read the script, because everyone can interpret a script and a certain character in very many different ways. So I quite often work with mood boards to begin with, and pulling ideas of hair references, makeup references, working along with costume and design departments. We take into account, you know, affordability, what kind of lifestyle a character has. It's very easy with period drama, obviously, because you can look back on lots of references. It's more difficult with something like Doctor Who sometimes, because it can be supernatural, it can be in the future. So that is a very collaborative process between then design, costume, prosthetics, for us to deliver that to the screen.
Lovely, thank you, Claire. That segues me straight in towards Danny Marie Elias as well, and looking forward to hear what her responsibilities are within the job role and with the journey of delivering the script to screen.
So from my point of view, obviously myself and Claire, we work quite closely together. Makeup and prosthetics is quite a collaborative department and team. And my main role really is to develop in the same way Claire would develop her makeup looks, is to then build creature makeups. So we're very concerned about obviously making everything as movable, making the actors feel as comfortable as possible, but we're also then looking into the development of these characters, these otherworldly creatures that we see. So there's a lot of research that goes involved, concept arts that get built, maquettes, you know, showing every other department what we're doing and how to collaborate with the rest of the team, really. So there's a lot that goes into it. Lots of things to consider. There's a whole range of different things that we could possibly go down, from fur to horns to different features. There's a whole world there to be explored, but it's mainly, you know, touching on everything that others have said, and it's a huge collaboration, and also with a massive team of people behind me making these things possible.
Well, Danny, I wouldn't envy you on the eve of Halloween. I'm sure your family is hounding at the door to get some prosthetic bits off you for this evening. But thank you for partaking your experiences there. And that brings me on to the lovely Lindsey, which is representing the costume department. And I just wanted to again ask you the same question, responsibilities with your job role with the journey of script to screen.
Well, I think everyone sort of touched on the aspect of it being a collaborative process, which I really agree with. So costume, from my point of view, is taking the script, having meetings with directors and producers, and then, you know, collaborating with design departments, makeup, prosthetics, and, you know, stunts and effects as well, because they have an input into costume. But the sort of real starting point is the vision and that sort of tone of the production, whether it's something that's period, whether it is something that's supernatural or futuristic, or whether it's modern day, and then sort of making sure that everything does work well together, and that what you're delivering is coherent and makes sense on the screen. More recently, I've done quite a lot of modern day things. So that for me involves an awful lot of people watching, which I think is just fantastic. And a lot of my characters, whether it's in an episode of Casualty or a modern day single drama, are based on people that I know or people that I see. And for me, it's sort of making that character believable. Claire touched on, looking at their sort of economic and social background and making sure that what they're wearing reflects that as a true representation. And then again, starting possibly with mood boards, sketches sometimes, and then just keeping that dialogue going with directors and other creatives in the process, really. And then obviously, we would have a fitting with an actor and making sure that they're comfortable with it. Quite often they'll have, a very clear idea. Sometimes they'll be very open, but, that fitting process to creating their character, they have to go to set confident, otherwise things could affect their performance. And in terms of sound as well, that we have to accommodate things like radio mics are packed within a costume. We sometimes have to accommodate prosthetics in costumes as well, and working very closely and collaboratively with that whole creative team.
Right, thank you, Lindsay. And of course, from set design to explosion design to the makeup to the hair to the costume to the prosthetics, of course we need to capture all this technically, and that brings me wonderfully across to the technical team that we have on board here today, starting with you, Sian Pulfrey, and within the camera department. I wonder if you could just to us what your responsibilities are within your role as a director of photography with the journey of delivering script to screen.
Well, my responsibilities really is to tell the story through the lens, giving the director really what they want and hopefully much more. You work with an amazing team. You've got the gaffers, you've got the grips, you've got the lighting, so you've got, you're sort of creating a look for trying to get into the director's head and trying to convey their vision. Sometimes isn't always easy, but you have to really almost try and be sort of really get to know the director. You're also responsible really that you have to consider all departments because you're showing everybody's work. Costume, you work closely with makeup, on close-ups with actors, so make sure that you've got the makeup is happy with the lighting as well, that you're making the set look as amazing as it is, because everyone has worked so hard for so long to try and achieve the image that you then show on the screen. So it is, it's really exciting. But like I say, you have to consider everybody, all departments, and that you're fair to them all, really.
Thank you, Sian. And then your as you mentioned, your department, you're assisted within your department quite closely with the grip team, as we call them, the PM. I'll bring us over to Maya, and the same question to yourself, your responsibilities and your role within that journey of supporting the DOP as well as getting the script to screen.
Yeah, so generally we work closely with the DOP or the camera operator to achieve whatever movement or lack of movement that they want, because camera movement or lack of movement can sort of help achieve the vision. So we work with dollies or cranes or rigging or handheld. If the camera's handheld, we make sure the operator doesn't trip over anything or anyone. And yeah, just sort of make it move smoothly and nicely in the way that supports the vision of the film.
Well, thank you, Maya. And of course, I can see everything, but I always want to hear everything. I can't sit on a quiet television at home. Bringing me over to Chris, and I wonder if you could just tell us what your responsibilities are within your role with delivering the script to screen.
Yeah, of course. So I'm actually the first assistant sound. So I'm also known as a boom operator, and I work very closely with the production sound mixer. And our responsibility on a set is to capture the dialogue and all the sounds that you might see on camera. And I think it's quite important to capture it as best as possible so that the performance isn't lost and you don't have to replace anything. So we, like everyone said, work in collaboration with lots of people. Costume, we work very closely with concealing microphones in the costume without changing what they're supposed to look like. So that's sometimes very challenging. Also work a lot with people like Danny and the SFX stuff, trying to get their machines as quiet as possible, as to not interfere with all the dialogue. And so I think what our main goal is to get the dialogue as cleanly as possible on the day without them having to go over and over again. So you get that performance that everyone's looking for.
Lovely, thank you very much, Chris. Now, this is now going to bring us to the second part of the event today, on my second question. This is where the nitty-gritty starts, as I say, and the interest lies in our audience to find out, how do we get to these job roles? How do we become the heads of department? How do we run these wonderful productions that our panels are running currently? And I'm really looking at answers from our panel regarding entry-level opportunities, what people might need in regards of skills before they enter the industry, to think about progression opportunities within their department is also really interesting to hear as well. So I'll come to you first, Edward, if that's okay, sir. Could you inform our audience today the basic career pathway for entry level into your department, and the progression opportunities, the job roles that could be available, and things that they might need to think about should they want to step up towards production designing?
Well, I don't think there's any hard and fast rules, because I think, you know, the industry that we work in is quite embracing, and it likes talent, you know, it feeds on talent. So I think if you've got the basic sort of will and understanding and want and passion to do it, you know, you will rise to the top. I think you know, the two traditional routes are educational. You know, from my point of view, it was art college, and then in via that route. I think having an education background, whether it be a foundation course in art or I studied theatre design, it always just gets you into the industry, maybe at that slightly higher level. But that's not the only way. You know, I mean, I would advise people never to turn down work experience, because, you know, you do work experience and you never ever know where that's going to lead to. You know, 2 weeks making tea in a production office or an art department could see you straight away get your next job in one of the various departments, you know. So always the work experience route. And then it's just, you know, and it's just pure badgering. Just try and find out numbers, email addresses to people, and start the journey of badgering people, you know. Again, you know, as I said, we're quite, as an industry, I think we are quite inclusive, and we like people who are passionate. And we thrive on that. So I think educational route, I think there are great schemes, you know, I mean, especially in Wales, we are absolutely blessed with so many schemes. It's my shout, obviously, from Cymru. And there are things, colleges, you know, Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama do an amazing design for performance course, University, Trinity St Wales, you know, BA set design. So there are an awful lot of various ways to be able to get into the industry. And again, you know, it is a little bit, there is a way that you get to know people, get to study people, how they work, and make yourself useful, you know, when you do get those opportunities, absolutely make yourself useful, you know. Yeah, so I think, you know, I think there's lots of those routes. And of course, when you get into when you do get your foot in the door, wherever that may be, whichever department that may be in, there are so many opportunities, you know, and a lot of people that I've worked with in the past come to the industry thinking they want to be one thing, but actually once they've experienced it a bit, they become something totally different, you know. And I think, you know, the industry in Wales has grown so much over the last 10, 15 years. Those opportunities are absolutely genuinely available now, you know. And very quickly, once you do get those opportunities, because of the amazing amount of work that's happening locally, you know, they're very real opportunities, and they will and can take you around the world, you know.
Oh, fantastic, and great advice there, and good and a great insight into your department and what's available out there. We will mention again at the end of the session, but it's worth signposting at this stage that anything that might be mentioned by our panel speakers, to include the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama, we will send out a feedback form. Siobhan will mention this at the end of the session, and there's a bit of a present from us here all at Film Cymru Wales, a part of the feedback form. When you complete that, you will get a fact finder sheet from Screen Careers directly back to your email with hyperlinks to all the various resources that I've thought of and others have thought of to put on this list for you to be able to look for yourselves and Google and find out even more about these wonderful organisations that are out there, such as Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama and other training schemes as well. So I'll collate those from our panel speakers at the end of the session separately, and I'll make sure that those are on the fact finder for you all. So that brings me on to Danny Hargreaves with the same question to you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with Ed any more than what he said. I mean, what he's basically grassroots. For me on a personal level, when I think back nearly 25 years ago, when I lied about my age, about pretending I was a certain age in order just to get a foot in the door. That's kind of what I did. And it was the commitment I was trying to show in those early days that I was desperate to get into the film industry, and really work experience gave me that opportunity. It gave me the opportunity to see things as an overall, but it really just confirmed for me that the direction I wanted to follow was special effects. I thought it was stunts, actually, believe it or not. But then I really wanted but then I was more interested in the mechanics of special effects. And so for me, that was what I got into. And I absolutely bullied the company that gave me the opportunity. And I think really just moving forward, I'm an employer myself. I've got many people that work for me and with me. And I'm not always looking for the people with the most qualifications, just people that have a real desire, a real drive. It can be a very brutal industry. I can't sugarcoat it. You know, there's a lot of personalities, there's a lot of pressure. Particularly when you're trying to deliver products or trying to deliver effects. And, you know, it is a real pressure cooker. You're working with safety, working with a lot of financial implications as well. So, you know, things do get stressed and it can be quite difficult at times. But, you know, if you can see through that and you have a real desire to get into working and filmmaking, and really, as I said, you know, I go for the people that are you know, hardworking and able to crack on, really. There is some wonderful should we say, courses that you can take here in Wales. Don't need to leave Wales to go back to get them. There is some fantastic, because there's always that kind of thing that you need to go to London. I'm from London and I've moved away from London. So, you know, there's some wonderful opportunities out there. And I think really at these sort of grassroots levels, you should just get your foot in the door and do some work experience. But then for me also, I take a lot of people who are thinking about a career change and upskilling. That's something that I'm really into at the moment. People that have got engineering degrees or people that have sort of generally done one job. They don't want to progress and do something different. And so that's why they come to us. So it varies. Just got to work hard.
Danny, I hear your wonderful team working hard behind you with those.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm just going to show everyone that we're all ready. Say hello, everyone. There we go. Come on, get back to work.
And as I know you very well, Danny, across the years, you very much support traineeships within your company and bringing trainees through. And you're based in Cardiff, and such a big company on such great productions as well. It's a wonderful thing to have such a wonderful great SFX company local. And again, we'll put that on the fact finding sheet, your name of your company, and people can search you out should they be interested in coming to join the special effects department at the point in their career.
Yeah, don't be camping outside my house or anything, guys.
We definitely.
Although I would be impressed, to be fair.
don't invite that. I'll be there myself. So just bringing us now on to Claire. Thank you.
Hi. Well, it was a long time ago when I started, 30 years now, and the entry levels then it was quite a strict, formal kind of training that was required. I knew from a young age that I was interested more in creating characters. I loved all the blood and gore. I wasn't ever going to get into TV or film to do pretty glamorous makeups. but you know, at that time, the BBC was the best training available, and they required 2 A-levels, I think it was. You know, and then you became an apprentice for 2 years, and then that would lead on to full-time employment, which was great because you had the ability then to work under numerous makeup designers that all had a very different background. You could learn from their skills, but thankfully now it's a far more open playing field. You know, if you've got an interest in TV and film, if you have a passion, have an art, have a skill, then there are many ways now you can enter the industry, which is amazing. So people come to us, you know, I get lots of CVs and phone calls, emails asking, you know, what can I do? The main function for us is hairdressing and makeup effects. So hairdressing is a good, strong skill to have. And because of the health and safety aspects, I would advise having barbering and hairdressing, hair cutting as a qualification. But those are skills that now that you don't have to enter into a 2-year course. It doesn't have to be an NVQ. There are shorter courses available. There are night schools. You know, you can go to a barber shop now and perhaps have a 6-week work placement with them. That I think is invaluable as well, because then you get to meet lots of the public. You get to talk with people of different backgrounds, different ages, because ultimately as well, our job is a very personal skill. You're working very closely with actors in oh, sorry, I've lost my
That's okay.
connection. Yeah, so it's a lot to do with confidentiality and having the right personality. So if you've got those skills and you can harness them and approach other makeup designers, makeup artists working across the field, and just being that person that is loyal, a good timekeeper, very honest, open. All those personalities are really important within our department, and you can learn along the job. So basically, the structure of my department is you have the head of department, myself. I'm there basically to decipher a script, work, as Lindsey and the others have said, with the director, producer, have the initial meetings with the cast members, with the actors, discuss how the look is going to be achieved, whether it's wigs, facial hair, prosthetics. And then below me, I've got my supervisor, who's my right-hand woman. And they take on a lot of the budgeting responsibilities, so I don't have to worry about that and not think about money too much. And they quite often will look after the principal actor. Along with the team then, on Doctor Who, we've got 2 assistants, which is a luxury, and also a junior and a trainee. So if you come at a trainee level with some basic skills, then you will work alongside us and you can learn and mature on the job. And those are the skills, you know, if you've got the talent, we can bring out that talent in you and help you along the way.
Claire, can I just ask you the question? Should I be that person that is interested to be that trainee, and I need to reach out by email to yourself or to any other makeup designer that could be looking? Is there an organisation? Is there an association of makeup designers I could actually find out contacts, or how would I go about that?
BEC2 is our main union, and they are now, well, they have done this year, and especially during lockdown, have created a specific hair and makeup section to the union. You can go on board there, give all your details. They are putting a database together as we speak, that will put you in touch with a mentor as well, possibly. This is something that is an ongoing thing now, and hopefully will expand even more. BAFTA Cymru, skill set, Screen Cymru. I think you can approach all these people, and you know, we are more than open to receiving emails. I think it's just important to tell us about yourselves, about your interests, about what you love about film and TV, because it's not a glamorous job. The hours are long, you're in muddy fields, and quite often it's not about making up. Sometimes it can be about breaking down. If you're creating a character, it's looking at broken veins, looking at wrinkles, you know, if they need to be dirty, grubby. It's not all nail varnish and lipstick.
Well said. Well said. Thank you so much, Claire, for signposting
Okay.
some really good moments for people to really look into after. Again, we'll put that on the fact finder sheet so people have that information soon. Coming to you, Danny Marie, with your department and the structure of that.
Okay, so prosthetics is quite a varied department. It's very varied, actually. So it can be anything from specialist sculptural skills to making skills, to fabrication, paint work, hair work, fur work. You know, we do a huge range. So to start with, you really need a basic understanding of how prosthetics work, and you can gain this through mentioning this online, where you can do independent study. There's a fantastic online course that's actually renowned, and that's the Stan Winston School of Character Arts, and that shows you videos from animatronics to mask making to age makeups to small mold making, large mold making. They cover a range of things. So if you do have an interest, there's a lot of things that you can do independent research and study on. A lot of the guys in the workshop with me, they have university degrees. I do not have a university degree in prosthetics, and I actually learned as I worked, which is a route that some people tend to go down. Also, is worth mentioning that I do have a hair and makeup background, so that's how I gained access to prosthetics. So you do need a basic understanding of how to apply and use colour, whether that's an art background or a makeup background, and then it really depends on what kind of specialism you're looking to go into. So I would suggest that you do either independent study or small short courses to start off with, and then maybe look at a more specialised degree course to help guide you through. But like everyone says, there's a lot of routes, there's a lot of ways to get in contact with people. And now more than ever with the internet, there's a lot of ways to find out who's been working on it, whose work you like, contact those people. They're quite receptive to having these kind of messages, and we all tend to have them quite a lot. Another thing I'd like to mention is that when Claire said about the structure of her team and, you know, the way that it sort of works, just a little nod there to say that I was actually Claire's trainee many moons ago. So this system works. You know, I'm really grateful to the team that they had then, to Claire and to all the other designers that I work with, because they really do guide you through. So it's important when you do get these opportunities that you, most importantly, concentrate, work hard, and push yourself. Really, it's all about that, you know. It's all about hard work, graft, and making sure that you have the passion and the determination and drive once you're actually in that position to see it through.
That's some great advice here. Thank you very much, Danny. And then I'll coming over to Lindsey, and for her to give us a real good insight into the costume department structure.
Yeah, so the costume department structure, as the costume designer is the head of the costume department. And then next down, you would either have an assistant costume designer, or more commonly, you would just have a costume supervisor, which I did for about 4 or 5 years on Doctor Who and Torchwood, which was just such an amazing, you know, job to learn on. And then next down, you would have your on-set standby assistants, and sometimes trainee as well. I think it's interesting that everyone's talked about sort of routes into the industry, and I did come from sort of art college and education background, and I did a postgrad in theatre design, especially in costume, at the Welsh College of Music and Drama, which was great, and that sort of led me into theatre. So I've sort of come a kind of windy road to get to where I am, but I think the important thing to take from that is the transferable skills and things that I've learned along the way that I think have all gone in to sort of help make me into the costume designer that I am. And that's sort of things from making in theatre. I went on a night class to do millinery, so I've got some millinery skills. I've got jewellery making skills. Doing live events in theatre is one thing, and then sort of coming back then, and my first sort of foray into TV was as a trainee. And I think my advice to anybody out there who either comes through an education background or just comes straight into it as a trainee or work experience is just to keep your eyes open all the time, and just to look at what the other members of the team are doing. So if you are a trainee, you know, look at what the assistant's doing. If you're an assistant, look at what the supervisor's doing. The supervisor looks at what the designer is doing, and just watching and learning all the time. And you know, really important things. I think somebody mentioned timekeeping, you know, show up on time, make yourself useful. One of my best trainees, who I actually met on It's My Shout a couple of years back, and I brought her on to a couple of different things, and she's just stepped up now to being a costume standby. Her answer to everything was, can you do this? I've never done it before, but yes, I'll give it a go. And that's why I love her. You know, that was such a brilliant attitude to have. And, you know, she will do really well because of that. And that's sort of the real take home, I think, is to show up, be interested and learn all the time. And something that I wanted to follow on to what Edward said as well is, you know, there are many different sort of aspects within this industry. Just in costume alone, we've mentioned the on-set things, designer, costume supervisor and costume assistant. There's also costume makers, there are breaking down artists, there are milliners, there are costume prop makers, you know, so you've got this whole kind of rainbow of job titles that you can sort of go into. And there's lots of crossovers as well. So, you know, don't just go in thinking, well, I just want to be a designer and that's it. You know, some people are much happier in that supervisory role. Some people want to go into making, you know, there's lots of opportunities. In here in Wales, it's fantastic. And when I started, I sort of missed that kind of BBC training scheme. It sort of finished a couple of years before I came into the industry. So it was a bit of a kind of, you had to make your own way basically. And that was writing to people, you know, phoning people, badgering people, getting in places as a trainee, or then doing dailies, which is, you know, when you're contracted just for sort of casual day work on a production. And that for me, as a trainee and as an assistant costume standby, was the most valuable thing for me, was doing dailies, because that is where you've got your chance to impress people or to be as interested as you possibly can. And more often than not, that designer or that supervisor will remember you and take you on to the next thing. And that's kind of how my career has worked in the last 20 years, is, you know, meeting people through doing a daily or, you know, doing something, and then they'll remember you and take you on. And I think, you know, as has been mentioned, in Wales at the moment, we've got such fantastic training schemes, more opportunities than I ever had sort of 20 years ago when I started. We've mentioned It's My Shout. There's trainee opportunities and work experience opportunities within BBC, within continuing dramas and films that are going on here. And, you know, as was mentioned before as well, you don't have to go to London. There is an awful lot going on here, and fantastic courses as well. You know, Welsh College of Music and Drama, there's also a course at Coleg y Cymoedd, which I think is a costume construction stage and screen. You know, there's a lot here.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Lindsey, for giving us all that information, and rightly so. You know, 2020 has been a very interesting year for us all, but I don't want to leave a legacy on the recording here by mentioning why. But what I would like to say is 2021 brings real great hope and inspiration to our industry. I'm very much aware that there's potentially quite close to 15 to 20 productions about to happen across Wales next year, which I think is absolutely wonderful. And that is different kind of streaming channels bringing their product into Wales to be made in Wales. So that is a great opportunity for all of yourselves as panelists, and as well as our audience that might be joining the industry very, very soon. So bringing me on to the technical team, and really looking forward to hearing about what the structure is within your department, Shani, and what challenges you've met along the way, and how did you start up within the camera department?
Right, well, there are lots of ways to get into it, obviously, but I think the first foremost thing is a basic knowledge of photography and interest in photography. So I did it I went to art college, and then I worked for a photographer in the darkroom for years, and became a stills photographer. And I always wanted to be in the TV, so a roundabout way, I also wanted to work in TV and film. So I sort of badgered people, really. I did freebies. I went, offered to be a runner for free just to get to know people. I then started doing sort of on-set stills, photography on set. And then got in as a runner, and then just had a break, runner to a general runner now for production. And I got a break. There's a wonderful director of photography called Ray Orton, and he was doing a job, and he was desperate for a clapper loader, and I went really into the deep end then, and was an assistant for years with him and Alvin Hughes. And I got really out of my comfort zone because I was from a creative background. I wanted to make really good pictures, and all of a sudden I've been thrown into this technical world. So you've got to put a different head on then, and it's quite important really to get into sort of something that you're not quite comfortable with. And then I just went up the ladder, then became a focus puller, which is probably the most nerve-wracking job that you could ever do in your life. All responsibility, everything has to be sharp, all eyes on your work. And then eventually just, you get a break, you work with a director who likes you as a focus puller. And I think one of my first jobs was a documentary for the BBC on the rave scene. And I had to prove that I could film. So off I went with Dave Evans, a director. We went to the Hippo Club, borrowed the camera, and filmed the Hippo Club and showed that I could actually, create a picture. So I got my first break as a lighting camera operator then with the BBC for a documentary on the rave scene. I didn't sleep for 2 weeks. And then, so you've got to climb the ladder, but there are, a lot of people become focus pullers and clapper loaders or assistants, and they are careers, anyway, and they just stay in that career. So, but like everyone said, there's good training schemes. This is my shout. The BBC do really good traineeships, but just get to be seen, just badger people, offer yourself for free, just get to know people, really. It is really important.
It might be worth signposting, because I think we haven't mentioned it yet, but I would love to mention it now. So many people out there in our industry have freelance bases and really need to sell themselves across the social media platforms. So they might have social media handles, or what they might have more than anything, which is really worth looking into, is websites. And as director of photography, they would have something called a show reel. And a show reel is a piece of work that proves to the world that they've created something, and also it gives an opportunity for their potential employers, like executive producers and producers, to view their work and to see if they would be suited towards the production that they're setting up to get on board as a director of photography. So what might be worth people doing, and I'm signposting them to this now as a young audience, is to Google director of photography, and you will be kind of absolutely surprised how much information that'll come your way, and you will start seeing those names, those websites. And I'm saying now, I'm sure most of them will be very happy to, because most of them have got emails attached to their website, that you knock on their door and ask for those opportunities. Because what you must remember is everybody has come to a stage in the industry when they become the head of department because they have been that trainee many, many years ago. they will never forget that moment and those worries and concerns of getting into the industry and continuing work, especially these days when there is no staff jobs available through the big transmission broadcasters. So it's really important that we as a community, a filming community, keep very much close to each other and communicating to each other. And that is from entry level up to the boss level, as we call it. So knock on those doors, use those emails, you know, and ask those questions. Would you be willing to take me on as a trainee? Would you be willing for me to come and shadow your department for a day? So I'm just pointing that out, that we all hold wonderful websites here and there, so just worth looking out for. So that brings me to Maya.
Yeah, I don't have a website.
Well said.
Yeah, no, so I think that I'm in the department that's got a slightly more rigid way of doing it, because across Wales and the south of England and so on, we have something called the Grips branch, who sort of I won't say manages, but you have to be a trainee for 3 years, and then there's an assessment for you to step up. And then you're an uncertified grip for about 2 years, and then you can start taking your NVQs, which also takes a while. And then usually the ultimate goal for a lot of grips is NVQ level 3, which means you can go out with techno cranes and tracking vehicles and that sort. So there's a slightly less gray area than in most departments, I believe. But yeah, the best way into the Grips department is contact Grips branch, really. That being said, I was really lucky because I've got a master degree in filmmaking from London Film School. And I went in thinking I wanted to be an editor, and then I realized that computers and technology and myself doesn't really mix very well. So I fell into gripping at film school, and it just clicked. The logical work and the creative work and the practicalities of it, and the health and safety as well in my job is amazing.
Do you find you have to break down some barriers because you're a female working within the grip department, which comes with heavy equipment? We understand that, but more than anything, it's very dominated with male participants, isn't it? It was very interesting. We spoke briefly a couple of weeks ago, but the figures that you gave me, which I'd love you to partake with us today, were outstanding.
Yeah, it is a very male-dominated department, I have to admit. For what I know, we are 5 female grips and 4 female trainees across the UK, whereas there's I think about 600 male grips.
Wow.
But ever since, so I joined the department 3.5 years ago as a trainee, and there was 4 female grips and only me as a trainee. Now, I mean, in 3.5 years, the females in my department has doubled, which sounds insane, but it's only 4 more people, really. But yeah, of course there are some barriers because, as you say, it is very heavy work. It's big machinery. It's carrying a lot of heavy stuff around. But sometimes it's more brains over brawls sometimes, because if something is too heavy, you ask for help to carry it. Don't break your back. Don't, you know, I can see that a lot of the panel has been in the industry for many years, and you want to last as long as you can in this industry because it's an amazing family to be part of. So you don't want to get destroyed in the first 5 years. So if something's really heavy, ask for help to carry it, or figure out a way to get it there, put it on wheels, or bring in a crane to lift it across. You know, it's about using a practical mindset.
And well said there, Maya, and well said. And I'm coming over to you, Chris, to finish our second section off.
So I was, when I started, I actually came into the television industry as a runner. I was an office runner for one job, and then I went straight on to being a floor runner by the contacts I'd made on my first opportunity. And then from there, I was a runner for about 3 years, 2.5, 3 years. And then an assistant director, third AD for a couple of jobs, and I decided I wanted to do something technical, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I knew I could maybe go into camera, maybe go into sound. I knew I wanted to do something more technical as a role, and I got an opportunity to be a trainee as a sound trainee on a job back in about 2007. And I did it. I jumped at it, and I did that job as a trainee, and I haven't really looked back. I did trainee for about 2 years, and then I was a second assistant sound for a few years, and now I'm a first assistant sound. And I'll touch again what everybody else has been saying, that you've got to have that passion and that drive to want to be in the industry, definitely, and be willing to go the extra mile, and you know, be punctual on your time and timekeeping and things. And also, I would say if you do get an opportunity to be a runner, maybe that's not what you want to do eventually, but take it, because you can learn all sorts of things on set, like the set etiquette and how things are run. You can learn about each department and what people do on set, and I think that's one of the biggest things you can have, is knowledge about how things are run. And you can make contacts, and you can just be around people and understand how it all works. And every day's a school day still, even for everyone on this panel. I'm sure no one assumes they know everything about every role. So you can just always be willing to learn things. I think that's one of the most important things as well.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Chris, for partaking your wisdom, and to our panelists for sharing your thoughts, your experiences, your advice, your great wisdom with us today here on Screen Careers. Now, this is a great moment where the audience gets to ask the questions directly. So I'm going to now hand back to Siobhan on Film Cymru Wales tech team, and she will take us through that moment, and then she'll hand back to me to run the Q&A. Thank you, Siobhan. Diolch.
Somebody who firstly has a real passion for the job, somebody who works really hard, somebody asks questions all the time. You got the hunger and the appetite to learn, and like, I think, was it somebody said, just watch how other people work all the time, listen. It's sometimes it can be quite, it tests you. It can be quite tedious sometimes. Sometimes you have to be really keen. You're just assisting people, you're looking after the cables, you're going to have to make a lot of very good teas and coffees, and it's just your attitude, really. You have to come up with the right attitude, because as mentioned before, we're doing 12-hour days. They're long and they can be very testing, but if you it's sort of, if you love it, the day goes quicker. But and just become a team member. We are all one big team. So just working with people and together with people, and sometimes you've got to have a layer of a tough skin sometimes as well. So it's not the easiest of jobs, but it's very satisfying, and people are always work together, and we're always, you know, supporting each other, really.
I mean, language barrier is probably the first of those things. You know, driving on the other side of the road in many countries is another beauty. But I think, you know, we're all, you know, the industry around the world is pretty similar. You know, the positions that have become available, or the way the industry has grown. I mean, that said, the Americans do operate a slightly different system when it comes to things like props mastering, set decoration, those sorts of things. So there is a sort of a North American Southern Hemisphere divide, which sometimes shows its head. I if I'm honest, I prefer the working in the North American system. But yeah, I enjoy it. I love going to new countries. I mean, I'm as part of the production designers, you're very often the first person on the ground, you know, to sort of just find the locations and that sort of stuff. So you'll work with a co-production company, you'll land, you'll hook up with a location manager, and you'll spend 2, 3, 4 weeks, depending on the budget of the project, trying to work out in your mind how you can best put this production together. And that might be what's best shot of location, what's best for the studio environment. And once you've sort of you've made that plan in your head, then the director will potentially arrive. In the case of a feature film, it will be one director. In the case of a series, it could be 5, 6 directors. That's a totally different political game that you have to navigate on a series. But then the director arrives and then usually tells you you've got it all wrong and that's not how he or she saw it, and then you start again. Or if you're lucky, you've knocked the nail on the head and everybody's happy. But I enjoy that. I've just come back from Prague, where I've been working at Barrendorf Studios with a crew there that I'd never worked with before, and potentially go to Hungary to do a movie there. It'll be a similar set of rules, but the language barrier changes. It is going to be, the world we find ourselves in with the whole with the virus issue has impacted on the industry hugely in practical terms, like it has in many other industries where, but the rules stay the same, so yeah, it's exciting. I think it's exciting to go to different countries and to learn from different people, because when you do come back to Wales and you work then locally, you bring back, all those information that you've learned or that you've taught, I call it missionary work when I go and work abroad.
It's a very tricky one for us at the moment because we are in close contact with actors. So at the moment, we're called, on Doctor Who, we're a close contact cohort. So that means that the hair and makeup and costume people are having COVID tests twice weekly. We're pretty much soft isolating, so limiting our exposure to large numbers of people or areas. That protects us. The cast are also being COVID tested. So at the moment, it is a bit tricky getting work experience people in on the show. And as you know, I've always encouraged to bring work experience people in, give them the opportunity to see how we run as a department, what our responsibilities are, what our tasks are. But it has had an impact at the moment. But, I would encourage people to still strive to look into the industry, do what you can to build a portfolio. And as I say, just keep interested in film and TV and as Lindsey said before, look at people around you, and keep knocking on the door because there will be more opportunities, hopefully soon.
Thank you very much, Claire. I'd like to add something to Michelle just from my own learnings of my new job at Film Cymru Wales, because I was on the coalface with this team of panel, which is in front of us today, for the last 30 years working in the industry. And I've retrained myself. I've upskilled myself in various other parts of the training sector to safeguard my security and my family's security for this year in regards of employment. So those are the choices I've made personally, but also I'm still feeding back into the industry and monitoring the industry. What I'm getting from the industry is that there is an exciting time ahead next year. The main broadcast funders, that's the crux here, the broadcast funders, those are the people who have the money. If they do not feel confident enough that the market is open for business, then they're not going to spend their monies, and the monies aren't going to filter through to the producers, and we can't employ people to onto productions or create anything. The good part of this is that everybody's sat through 3,000 lockdown days, has watched everything on Netflix, Amazon that's available, and now they're asking for content. Because without content, they have no audience and they're not making money. So it's an odd circle of life. But as much of that circle of life needs to continue forward, I think the most interesting thing part of it is money feeds money. And we've always known that across the years. The government are very good at it as well. I think there's going to be an exciting time ahead in Wales. What do we know as panelists? What do we know as training people? What do we know as careers advisors? What do the doctors even know of what next year is going to potentially be on the Richter scale of the pandemic? What all that we can do is live in hope, protect each other, and be kind at all times and support each other. This industry is very good at that and will continue to do so, whatever pandemics come our way. And hence the panel ahead of us today, they're all currently being employed and are employing. So I think we must take great heart from that, Michelle, moving forward. I'm also very willing to talk to you more on a separate level, sidebar level, away from this meeting, and please get in touch with me at Film Cymru Wales next week. It would be very interesting to talk to you further.
I'll say in this respect, any degree is good to have under your belt. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in that to get a sound as a trainee sound person. What does help, and I've experienced this, the production sound mixer who I work with regularly, he came from a sound background, and he's a music degree. And the other boom operator I work with, he's also a music tech graduate. So I think music and sound degrees in general, I know that University of South Wales have got a bunch of sound degrees, things like that would definitely help. But I think it's more a personality thing in terms of getting your foot in the door as a trainee and work experience. So anything you've got under your belt will help.
Concepts are hugely important, the way I like to work is I'll do some mood boards, basically because I've forgotten how to draw. So I'll do mood boards, and they'll give the director, or the DOP, the costume designer, they'll give them some idea of the way that the look of the show is potentially going. And then from that moment on, I'll start concepting with the concept artists that'll then focus everyone's attention to what a location might look like, or prop might look like, or a piece of set decoration might look like. And so they're hugely important as far as the concept work is concerned.
Thank you. Danny?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I would then take on from Ed. Ed would come to me and say, this is what we want to do. I would go away then and try and sort of see how we would create that, look at locations, what is the possibility of trying to achieve what we want to achieve in the location that we've desired or we've chosen, take it on from that point and then execute. Yeah, part of that process, it all starts from just, storyboards at the moment, and then working through and then, making props, like we make props, so it all starts off with just a drawing really and ideas.
I've got another interesting question which I'd love to put in front of the whole panel, because I know some of you do. Thank you very much. Could I ask, the panel has mentioned the importance of work experience. Of course, working for free, we must think of that wisely these days, but work experiencing, shadowing, especially when you're within school education moments, are so important and such a good stepping stone to think about what potentially could be your careers within the industry. Do any of the panel go into schools to work with pupils at all?
Yeah, I've just done a Zoom class with some pupils from Corpus Christi. So whereas I would have gone into the school if the situation was different this year, but yeah, that was really interesting, just sort of talking about the process. So that was a class that was doing a sort of general theatre studies background, but they wanted to know the process, as we've talked of today, from script to screen or script to stage that you go through for costume design. So that was really good. And in the past, I've gone into sort of further education colleges and done sort of little talks, but not for a while. But yeah, that was the most recent one, was via Zoom.
To my panel of speakers, thank you so much. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi gyd. Thank you to all of you for bringing a wonderful perspective of your job roles, of how to get into the industry, into your own department, of bringing such inspiration and hope to me, and hopefully to the audience today, that next year is going to be a great year for us all, starting on entry level or as the boss. I wish you well upon those journeys. I wish you well upon the journeys you're fighting now. It's a big challenge out there, and having come from the coalface, I can't fully understand more of the challenges you're up against. And I take my cap off to you, and so does Film Cymru Wales, of all the challenges you're coming against and that you're battling on a day-to-day basis to keep our industry afloat. Thank you to you all. Diolch yn fawr from Screen Careers today.